Hi everyone, welcome to the first session of Code Your Own Adventure. My name is Andrea and I'm a Digital Services Librarian at Richmond Public Library. This week I'm going to introduce you to Python, which we'll be using to code our games, and showing you Trinket, which is the website we'll be using for our coding. I'll show you some simple code with Python, and I'm going to add some more resources in the description of this video if you'd like to learn more. And then next week we'll be looking at how to get started writing a pick-a-path story or code your own adventure, and after that we'll start coding our games. So the first thing I just want to do is give you an overview of Trinket. So Trinket is a visualizing platform. It does also have some tutorials and paid plans if you like. It's perfectly fine to just use this for free. If you are interested in other elements of coding besides Python, there are a couple other options. You can see that some of these are locked for paid only, but you can use HTML blocks, and you also have an option to use music if that is something you are interested in. I'm just going to show you a quick overview of the website. So these are my most recent trinkets, things that I've been working on. I can start a new trinket from here. You do need to make an account to use Trinket. It is free to use, however. So if I go to my trinkets, you can see everything that I worked on. You can also see that I have some code and scripts that I have downloaded from other people, which is a really great part of Trinket. You can search other people's code and you can either look at it and learn from it, or you can adapt it to what you need it to do. To make a new trinket, you would just click here. You have some settings, and then the aspect of Trinket that I really like is you also do have free lessons that you can do. So if you'd like, in between our sessions, you can also go in here and take some more classes. A lot of the code that we'll be focusing on in this program is just going to be for the Code Your Own Adventure and the simple game we're going to be making today. So if there's more you'd like to know, you can just head over here and take some more lessons, which is really great. And I'm just going to quickly walk you through some blocks coding. You can see right here. So this is going to be if you want to have go between Scratch and Python. This is a really great place to start. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about Trinket, let's play around with one of the cooler aspects of it. So if you get to the point where you feel like you're not quite ready for Python, you can still use Trinket to make block coding like you would in Scratch. So this is just going to be a little bit easier to wrap your head around if you're not quite ready to start using script and writing for coding. So we can just play around with this super fast. So I'm just going to call this turtles. And we're just going to draw a little bit with the turtles here. So we first need to make sure that our shape is a turtle. And there's our turtle there. And using this, you can move forward. Let's make this a little bit more dramatic. Let's go forward by 90. And we can change our color. If you want it to be a random color, you can just pull this out and use this one. So our turtle blocks are going to be like our movement code when we use Scratch. So you can see there's other options too. So we can put in some variables. We can add some lists, which we'll get into when we start using Python coding. We can do some loops. We can do some math. We can add some writing in. So the thing to keep in mind with this one is, as you can see here, this is a command we're going to be using a lot when we make our stories in Python. So we always want to have print, and then we will write our words. So with this, you can change color. You can probably name your turtle if you'd like. And once you kind of get the hang of how to change direction, you can also start making shapes. So I'd love to see if you could figure out how to make a triangle, a box, and a circle. All right, since we looked at that, let's now look at doing some coding in Python. So what is Python? Python is a programming language. It's like Scratch, but instead of using blocks like we did here, we're actually going to be writing out our code. Python is a really great coding language to learn if you're just a beginner starting with writing code. But it's also used by a lot of companies like Google and Apple to make their software. And it's also used in machine learning and artificial intelligence. So this is a really great language if you're interested in anything like that, or if you just want to learn how to use it. So to get our program started, we're just going to pick a new trinket and go into Python. And this is our new one. So we're actually just going to be coding a really simple rock, paper, scissors game that we will be playing against the computer. So the important thing to keep in mind here is syntax. So syntax is how things are written. So you didn't really need to worry about this so much when you were using Scratch, but with this you have to make sure that everything is formatted the right way. Otherwise Python doesn't know how to create the code that you're looking for. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to type in print. And anytime you want writing in Python, you need to make sure that you have print ahead of it. And then brackets, hello world. And we'll run that. And you can see it comes out over here. So this is your visualizer on the right side. So everything that you code, you'll be able to see on the right. If you were interested in maybe not using Trinket, and using something like idle, which is what you get when you download Python, it'll actually open a separate window when you want to see your code and how it works. Okay, so for this, we're going to be programming some strings. And a string is just short for a string of characters. So a character are all the letters, numbers, and symbols that you see on your keyboard, and things you don't see like emojis. A string is just one or more characters put together. And in Python, these strings, like we did with hello world, are always surrounded by a double or single quotation mark. And if you don't put that in, you're not going to get your typing out. And for this, we are going to be programming a rock, paper, scissors game. So part of that is we want the computer to be able to play with us. So we need to actually have it so it can make random replies. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do from random import, and then a star at the end. And we need to make a list. So for lists, you need to first say what the list is of. So this is going to be our items that are included in rock, paper, scissors. And for your list, you need to make sure that it's in a square bracket. Just for when you're writing things out, it goes in the circular bracket, and when you're making lists, it goes in the square. All right, so we need to say rock, and you just want to make sure that all of these are separated by brackets. So everything you write is going to be in its own brackets, and then you want a comma in between them as well. And we want our game to welcome us, so we're going to say print to rock, paper, scissors. And let's make sure to save our game so we don't lose any of the progress we've made so far. All right. So now we're going to code our player commands. So we're going to say player equals input. So for input, this will be when we type something in. So if we want to make a chatbot, this would be like what we would do if it asks a question. But for this, we need to pick if we want to play with rock, paper, or scissors. And then we're going to print again. You chose. And then the thing to keep in mind is when we have an input, we actually don't want that in our typing brackets. So we're going to be putting that right here. So our player is what we input up here. So let's see how that would work. And I'm going to type in rock. You can see I chose rock. And the thing to keep in mind here is that the computer also can't tell the difference between uppercase and lowercase. So what we're actually going to do also is add in this command, which just means that everything we type in will go automatically to uppercase. Right, so you can see my option adjusted, so everything is uppercase in characters now. All right, so if you're sharing this with your friends and family, they might think it's funny to type in something like maybe dragon or tree, and do sort of the extended options for rock, paper, scissors if you've ever done that. But since we can't account for everything that someone might put in, we want to adjust so that the code will loop back until our player picks something that we have in our list. So what we're going to do is we're going to do player and just have single quotation marks here. As you can see, when you put in one, it adds the other, which is a really nice thing about Trinket. You don't need to worry about adding things at both ends. And then we're going to say while player not in items. So this will be whenever someone types in something that we didn't include in our code, we will loop back to this until we get a response that we have coded for. And just make sure when you are doing a loop or a conditional that you are also adding in a colon at the end, otherwise you will get this syntax error. We do need the colon at the end. So let's try that again. All right. So I'm going to say tree, dragon, lizard, and then rock. Alright, so you can see that it just looped back to the beginning choice until I put in something that we were prepared for. Alright, now we also need to make sure that we can actually play with our computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another line of code that is the computer. So this is going to be our computer choosing a random item in the code. And we're then going to print, I chose computer. So since we are coding as the computer, we just want to make sure that we are keeping in mind that that's who it's going to be. We're putting in computer at the end here. All right. So we also, since this is a game, we also want to think about who won the game. So to start doing that, we need to write down the rules, and we need to make a dictionary for that. And a dictionary is like a list, but it can store keys and values. And the dictionary will tell us what beats what in rock, paper, scissors. And the dictionary is going to be surrounded by the loopy brackets, which I'll show you in a minute. So we're going to add in rules here. Right, so where our square bracket is, we'll just hit shift and we'll get our loopy brackets. And so we'll say rock beats scissors. All right, so some things to keep in mind here. The thing that beats it, the thing that wins is going to go first, and then you need to make sure that you have a colon in between and that each side has quotation marks around it. And we'll separate this by commas. Paper beats rock, and scissors beats paper. So to finish, we need to add in some if and else statements. So these are going to be conditionals. So this is going to be if the player and computer pick the same item. So if we randomly both pick rock, we will have a draw. If our player picks, or you picks, let's say scissors, and the computer picks paper, then it will say you win. And then otherwise, which will be if the computer picked scissors and you picked paper, then it will say I won. So we're going to add some if-then loops. So if player, which is you, picks the same thing as the computer, so we have a double equal sign here. We're going to print. It's a draw. And then we're going to say elif. So this is else if. So this is going to be if you want to add a lot of conditionals, you'll use elif continuously. If we were only going to do one, so let's say that we didn't have an option for draw, we just had if the computer or player won, we would just type in else, but since we have multiple options, we're going to say elif. I'm going to use a double equal sign again, and make sure that you add your colons in at the end. My mistake there. We're going to print you won. And then for our last option, we're just going to type in else. So we don't need to add any information for else. This will just be if there's any input that we did not put in. And we're going to say I won. All right, so let's give that a try. All right, and so we're just going to fix this up a little bit. Sometimes when you do print, you don't need to put the brackets in. All right, rock. All right, so you can see over here, we randomized that the computer will be able to pick anything from our list. So I said rock, the computer said paper, so the computer won. And let's try again. So I'm going to say rock again. All right, so I typed in scissors, the computer chose paper, so our player won. And let's see if we can get it to just be a draw. All right, so you can see it says it's a draw here. And we want to make sure that we save this. And if you'd like, our code is all done here unless you want to add in more things to your list. So if you wanted to have dragon, lizard, lava, which I've definitely done before, you can add that into your list and just make sure you update your rules here so you can see who won or not. And since you have finished everything, you can also share this. So clicking on share, you'll have an email, you can have a link, and you can publish, or you can download it so you can save it to your computer. Publish, you'll be able to share it with everyone on Trinket, and that also means that people can Google your code, which is kind of cool. If you just want to send it to your friends and family, you can click on link, and you'll get the link here. And you don't need to log on to Trinket to be able to play other people's games or use their code. So anyone that you send it to will be able to play your game. All right, and that's all we're gonna do for this week. Come back next week, we'll be talking about preparing our multi-ended stories to get ready for coding. So that'll be fun. It'll be more of a writing sort of class, and then the week after we'll start coding everything that we need. And I hope to see you then. Bye.